They excluded me from my cousin's $80,000 wedding to avoid drama. So I took a dream vacation instead. Then everything exploded, and they came begging for my help. I never thought I'd be writing something like this, but I guess when people push you out long enough, eventually you learn to stop knocking on their door. My cousin Sarah and I grew up together. We weren't best friends, but we were always around each other. Holidays, family birthdays, graduations, we were part of the same circle. So when she got engaged and started planning her big $80,000 dream wedding, I naturally assumed I'd be there. Not as a bridesmaid or anything fancy, just a regular guest, someone sitting in the crowd with a smile, cheering her on. But as the months went by, the save the dates started rolling in, and my name was nowhere to be found. At first, I thought it was just an oversight. Maybe she was waiting to send mine. Maybe there was a mix-up. But then a friend from our extended circle, someone I'm not even that close to, mentioned that she'd gotten hers. That's when I knew. I wasn't invited. I finally asked Sarah about it, trying to keep it casual, not make it awkward. I thought maybe she'd just forgotten, or that the guest list was smaller than I realized. But her response caught me completely off guard. She looked uncomfortable, paused for a bit, and then said something like, "We just want the day to be as smooth as possible. You know? No extra drama." I was confused. What did that even mean? What drama? That's when she let it slip. Her fiancé's mother apparently thought I was a bit much. She described me as the outspoken one in the family. Someone who might start something, which was wild to me. I'd never caused any drama at any family event. I was always respectful, polite, maybe a bit opinionated, but never loud or confrontational. And yet, that's what they went with. That was their reason. And instead of standing up for me, Sarah just nodded along. She didn't want to push back, didn't want to challenge her future mother-in-law. So I was the one they cut. Just like that. What hurt even more was that no one else in the family seemed bothered by it. My parents told me to let it go, that it was her special day, and I shouldn't take it personally. But how could I not? Being completely left out of a major family celebration without even a conversation felt like a punch to the gut. It wasn't just about the wedding, it was about what that exclusion represented. That I wasn't worth fighting for. That I was easier to ignore than include. And so, instead of letting that pain eat away at me, I made a choice. I wasn't going to sit at home feeling sorry for myself while everyone else played dress-up and took pictures. I took the money I would have spent on travel, gifts, and a dress, and I used it to book a solo trip to Costa Rica. A last-minute getaway with no plans other than to relax, recharge, and be completely out of reach. I didn't tell anyone I was leaving. I just packed my bags, got on a plane, and left it all behind. While my cousin was busy finalizing seating charts and picking flower arrangements, I was floating in a quiet pool overlooking the rainforest. I slept late, ate good food, took long walks by the ocean, and let the warm sun melt the bitterness off my skin. I didn't miss anyone. I didn't miss anything. And for the first time in a long time, I felt peaceful. I realized how much of my energy had been spent trying to be included in spaces that didn't value me. And now that I was away from it all, I could finally breathe. The wedding weekend came and went without me. While everyone else was posting pictures in fancy outfits and holding champagne flutes, I was watching the sunset from a hilltop, listening to nothing but the sound of birds and waves in the distance. I didn't check my phone. I didn't scroll through social media. I didn't want to know how it was going. I wanted to stay in my little bubble of peace, even if it was temporary. But eventually, on the evening of the wedding, I turned my phone on, just out of curiosity. And that's when the messages started pouring in. It was like watching a storm unfold from a distance. Turns out, the entire wedding was a disaster. The photographer canceled that morning because of a family emergency. The florist delivered the wrong flowers. One of the groomsmen showed up drunk and got into an argument with the maid of honor. But the worst part? The outdoor venue flooded. A sudden, unexpected storm rolled in just as guests were being seated. Chairs sank into the mud, guests were running for cover, and Sarah's $10,000 designer dress got soaked. And to top it all off, the groom's mother, the same woman who said I'd bring drama, ended up screaming at Sarah about poor planning in front of dozens of guests. People were whispering. Some even left early. It was a mess. As I read through the messages from my cousins, my aunt, even Sarah's older sister, I couldn't help but feel a strange mix of emotions. I didn't feel happy about their misfortune. That's not who I am. But I did feel validated. Like maybe now they'd see that cutting me out didn't protect them from chaos. That maybe, just maybe, I wasn't the problem after all. One message from Sarah's sister stood out the most. It said, "Honestly, I really wish you had been there. Maybe you could have helped keep things calm." I didn't reply. I just turned my phone off again and went back to watching the sunset. When I got home from my trip a few days later, the wedding was still the talk of the family. Some people were trying to spin it positively, saying at least they're married now. Others were blaming each other. And slowly, I started getting more messages. Not just from cousins, but from Sarah herself. A short text saying, "Wish you had been there. No apology. No explanation. Just that." I didn't respond. What was there to say? She made her choice. She let someone else's opinion of me decide whether I deserved to be included. And now that things didn't go as planned, I was suddenly worth a text? I didn't hold a grudge, but I didn't feel obligated to rebuild that relationship either. Sometimes people show you exactly where you stand in their lives. And when they do, believe them. I didn't go on that trip to get revenge or make a statement. I went because I needed to remind myself that I was still allowed to take up space. That I was worth something even when others couldn't see it. And in the end, that trip did more for me than any wedding ever could. I came back stronger, calmer, and completely unbothered. They can keep their wedding photos and their regrets. I'll keep my peace. If you've ever been pushed aside or made to feel like you weren't welcome, remember this. You don't have to prove yourself to people who've already decided you don't belong. Choose yourself. Always. And if you enjoyed this story, hit like, subscribe, and stick around. There's more to come.